Morning everybody. Saturday, January 15th at about 9:45 in the morning. We're having some really cold weather here in southern Ontario the last few days, so I'm sitting here enjoying our wood stove down in the basement, putting off a nice heat right now. It was minus 25 this morning, and there's an actual quite a brisk wind out there right now too, which probably brings the wind chill to minus 30 degrees plus. So it's a very cold morning. And yesterday was similar, not quite as cold. It's only supposed to get up to minus 16 as a high today, so we're looking at some pretty cold temperatures. There's also a big winter storm coming, they're predicting for Monday. So we here are expected to get anywhere from 25 to 35 centimeters of snow. So that'll be anywhere from 8 to like 12 inches of snow or so. We haven't had much snow yet, so I guess we're due for it. So during these times of extremely cold weather and desolation occurring outside, it's nice to be able to come into the house and enjoy some greenery. So we've got quite a few plants in the house. A lot of these go outside in the summer and sit on the porch or down below the porch, wherever we put them, to enjoy the summer warmth and sun. And then we bring them back in for the winter. So scattered throughout the house we have some nice plants like this calla lily here, just to give us a little sense of the summer's warmth at least. You have to make do with what you have. We got this Dieffenbachia plant from one of Diane's sisters about a year or so ago, and it was just a cut off stub of a trunk down here with I think one leaf or something, and since then it's grown into this quite large plant. It's one of our larger indoor plants right now, and they're really nice because they have such big leaves and they give the interior of the house a bit of a tropical look wherever you decide to put them. Dieffenbachias are nice. They have the mottled leaves, sort of dark green with some white speckling on them. Very nice plant to give that little nook or cranny in your house a more tropical feeling. This is a Hoya plant. Hoya. My mother had one or two of these many years ago, and we ended up getting one, or I think we just got one plant from her, but we've since multiplied it into 3 or so plants throughout the house now. And this is a vine that gets long tendrils on it, and ideally you would have it running up a little indoor trellis or something. And then, not every year, but certain years, it'll put out these very fragrant, waxy flowers. They look like little stars, and it just puts an amazing aroma all through the house. So these are really neat. A nice reminder of my mother, and quite beautiful when they come into bloom. If you've happened to watch any of the gardening videos I've done showing our summer gardens in bloom, you might recognize this plant if you're a gardener. This is one of 2 lantana shrubs that I put out in the summer and then bring them back in the fall. I don't know how long I'll keep doing that with these 2 shrubs. They are getting larger each year, and they're a little bit of a nuisance to bring in, but it's nice because they do survive over the winter. Sometimes they get pretty ratty looking, but usually by spring there's still some life to them, and you put them out and they just, within a month, they're putting out all kinds of new leaves, and then they put out their beautiful orange and yellow small multi-flowered cluster blooms. They're just gorgeous tropical plants to have outside in the summer, and the bees and the hummingbirds really like them as well. This is called lantana. Here's a little trio of amaryllis bulbs that we got just before Christmas at one of the local stores. They actually had them growing in what looked like a moss type box, and then the bulbs were all covered in wax, which I was a little bit uncertain about. The directions say you don't need to water them or anything. I guess they figure with the bulbs covered in wax they would just get the moisture they need out of their own bulb. I didn't really like that idea, so after Christmas I cut that wax coating off them and planted them in some potting mix. I think they'll do better in this. They didn't even have any roots on the bulbs, so they were looking pretty shriveled up and a bit dwarfed. So hopefully they'll do better if they can get some actual roots growing here. A very pretty amaryllis with this beautiful bicolored flower, red and white stripes inside. Now once you've had these blooms with amaryllis, you can simply leave the leaves there, or you can eventually cut them back when the leaves turn yellow and just hold the bulb for a few more months in sort of a hibernation state, and then replant them again, maybe in the spring or whenever, and then they'll start to grow and rebloom again. Here's a collection of some of the larger plants that we have down in the basement, and we put these out in the summer as well. In the foreground here is the other lantana, like the one I just showed upstairs. They're both doing well, lots of green leaves still. They do lose a lot of leaves when you first bring them in because of the reduction in light from the end of the summer till the winter, but they eventually hold a certain number of leaves and usually survive fairly well through the winter. Even when they almost look half dead though, you can usually put them out in the spring and they'll fully recover from what I've seen. Got a little rubber plant down here with the thick dark blue leaves. I've got a few American agaves, which are a desert succulent. These are quite large. I've got maybe 5 of them. They're quite spiny. They're a bit of a nuisance to bring in. I sort of like them though, to have them out in the summer. But at some point I may just get rid of them because they do get really big. I wish I lived in a warm area where I could let them grow to their full extent, because they can get up to like 6 feet tall or more, and then eventually put a long tall plume 10 or 15 feet high when they bloom. So they're an amazing desert plant. But of course here we just can't leave them out in the winter. They can take minor freezing down a few degrees below freezing, but once you get down to -5s and 10s, then they get killed off by that. I forget the name of this thin-leaved tropical plant here. I actually got this from one of my old work locations years ago. It had been sitting down in the basement of this multi-storied office building, and no one cared for it at all, and I used to feel sorry for it as I walked by it, and I eventually ended up bringing it home because no one seemed to want it, and ever since it's done well for us with very little care. And the leafy plant here is a Schefflera. It's sort of one of the typical tropical looking small trees or shrubs, and these are very commonly sold in stores. They're a bit prone to various diseases and mites, powdery mildews and things, but you have to keep them clean sometimes or the pests will get multiplying on them. And situated in the back there you can see a jade tree. We've got a few of these. They're nice to put out on the patios or on little tables in the summer. The key with them is to keep them in a well-draining medium so the roots never get waterlogged or they will rot. Here's a plant called a money tree, and I believe, if I remember correctly, these trees grow in swampy areas where they're found in the world. Another tropical plant that needs to be inside at this latitude for sure, and they like a moister soil and then a fairly bright but not pure sunlit position. Next to it is another one of our Hoya plants that I was showing upstairs with the long vine and the ones that produce the waxy, fragrant flowers every year or two. And lined up on this southern windowsill in the basement, we've got a variety of other plants. Another small jade tree starting out in one pot here. And this plant beside it, I believe, my mother had from her mother, and we've got it now. And it's only a few sprigs of a leafy plant here in the pot. It's called iron plant, and it's very tough, and it doesn't get a lot of special treatment here, and it's still surviving, although it does need to be repotted and better cared for sure than what is currently being done for it. Then we've got a couple of our geraniums which we brought in for the winter, and they managed to survive. They drop off a lot of leaves. The one was blooming for a while, and then I let it dry out a bit too much and the blooms started to fade away or die off, but they'll do fine once we put them out in the summer again. A lot of people would simply just throw these away at the end of the summer, and we've certainly done that too, but it's nice to keep them going year after year if you can. Here's one of several little cactus type succulents that we have in the house, And I forgot the name of this one, but we have quite a few of these that need to be repotted and separated, but there is only so much space we have in the house to keep repotting and splitting plants, so eventually you have to either get rid of them or give them to people that might want them. So there you have it, a little tour showing some of the plants we have inside our house at this time of the year. They really add a nice touch of greenery to an otherwise fairly bland world at this time of year in southern Ontario. This is actually Sunday now, January 16th at about 9:45 that I'm recording this. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, we're expecting a big winter storm. It's still on track for us to start hitting tonight and into tomorrow. And as you can see in this little map here, we're now expecting to get up to 40 centimeters of snow. And in the actual detailed report, they actually say certain areas around here might get 50 centimeters or half a meter of snow. So if those totals come true, it's going to be one of the biggest snowstorms we've had in quite a while. Over a typical winter, you might get several storms of 15 to 20 centimeters and then a bunch of little ones of 5 to 10 centimeters. So in the end, you might end up with 30 or 50 centimeters on the ground, a foot or two, or 30 to 60 centimeters. So when you can get one storm with potentially 40 or more centimeters, that's fairly significant for here. So I'll certainly try to get out tomorrow if the storm stays on track. And you don't always know with these things. Sometimes they can veer off at the last minute, but they've been saying for a few days now that we're right in the bullseye. And as far as I can see today, they're still saying that. So we're probably likely going to get it. Anyhow, I'll let you go for now, and I hope you enjoyed that little summary of some of the plants we have in the house. I'm recovering from my back issue, and I think I've got good news. I'm feeling better for the last 2 days significantly. So I just had an hour walk out with Luna around our property and on to the next property, and I feel great, no pain at all. I hate to even say that I feel better because maybe tomorrow it'll hit me back the same way. So long for now, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you.